You may know this. On our campus here in Jefferson Road, in this beautiful place that we call our temple and our sanctuary, this building has two cornerstones, and they flank the sanctuary entrance. I know that our attention was drawn to other things as we were coming in this evening, but there are two cornerstones that are over there. To the right as you enter, you'll see the stone that marks the completion and dedication of this building, as I mentioned earlier tonight, 2002. And etched upon that stone, carved in stone, is a verse from the prophet Micah. Has the words in Hebrew, it has these words in English: do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God. And whenever groups visit our temple, I take them to that stone. We stand in front of them. I tell them that justice and compassion and humility are not just parts of a verse or Jewish values. They are our congregation's heartbeat. But there's a second cornerstone there. It's older. It's brought from Temple's first building, dedicated as it was in 1910, just 3 years after we started as a congregation. And unlike the newer one, it bears no verse. Instead, carved in Hebrew are initials for the following four Hebrew words: Kehillah Kedoshah Adat Yisrael. Adat Yisrael. That means a Jewish congregation. In 1910, Greensboro was a small place, and Jewish life here was still in its earliest moments. 1910. To form an independent Jewish community, rather than relying on larger, well-established centers like Charleston or Baltimore, that was a bold act of faith. And we still stand on that foundation, even until this day. But that stone doesn't only call for us to be an Adat Yisrael, a Jewish congregation. It also calls upon us to be a Kehillah Kedoshah, a sacred community. Kehillah Kedoshah, a sacred community. Why add those extra words? Why not just say Temple Emanuel? By the way, it does say Temple Emanuel. They have a dash there in between the Emanuel and the L part from 1910. Not sure where it went. But why didn't they add those extra words? Because our founders wanted to leave us, in my opinion, more than an identity. They wanted to leave us a calling. Be a sacred community. Those words have resonated. They've resonated across a century now. They've resonated across generations. People coming and going. And yet they matter more now than perhaps they ever have. Not long ago, a dear friend of mine, a 92-year-old retired philosophy professor, he said to me, "Rabbi, the days we live in, we have to ask people, what is sacred? Where is holiness today? So few things are held as sacred anymore." I heard his words, and you know something? He's right. Judaism has always wrestled with holiness. We've always held it up. When we lift up a cup of wine on Shabbat, we call it what? Kiddush, invoking that Hebrew word for holiness. We do so not because the wine is holy, but because time itself is sacred. The very first thing in the Torah that God calls holy is not a person, it's not a place, but it's time. In Genesis, and we heard these words earlier tonight as we were lighting the candles, God blessed the Sabbath day and sanctified it. The first thing made holy is Shabbat, time itself. Our tradition understood that while land can be lost and buildings destroyed, time can never be taken away. If we sanctify it, it belongs to us forever. But do we still treat time as sacred? I once heard a story about a young parent whose child asked at bedtime, Mom, are you done with your phone now? Can you just sit here with me until I fall asleep? You know that simple plea wasn't about technology. It was about holiness. The child was saying, can you make this time sacred with me? And that's one of the challenges of our age. In a world of buzzing phones, crowded calendars, and constant news alerts, sacred time is rare and therefore more precious than ever. As we begin a new year, maybe the holiest act we can do is not complicated at all. It may be as simple as turning something off, slowing something down, and saying to ourselves and those we love, this moment matters. This moment. It's sacred. It's holy. When two people join their lives in marriage, the Hebrew word for that ceremony is kiddushin. It's from the same Hebrew root as kiddush, as holiness. Why? Because in Jewish tradition, the bond between two people can itself be holy. The Talmud tells the story of someone whose name was Honi. He was known for drawing circles in the ground, in the dirt, in the sand. Honi the circle maker. And one day he saw a man planting a carob tree. Honi asked that guy, how long until it bears fruit? And the man replied, it takes 70 years. And so Honi said, do you expect to live 70 years? And the man said, I found the world full of carob trees. And just as my ancestors planted for me, I plant now for the next generation, for my descendants. Holiness in relationships means caring for those who come after us and not just for ourselves. I think of whenever I watch a grandparent teaching a grandchild the melodies of our prayers, or when one of our longtime members greets a newcomer and says, let me show you how things work here. In those moments, we see the sacredness of human connection. The God that Martin Buber said appears in the space between two people. But do we still treat our relationships as sacred? Do we invest in them with intention, with patience, with time and care? Or do we just take them for granted? And you know, for centuries, Jews have honored the written and spoken word as holy. The Torah itself begins with speech. God said, let there be light. Creation happens through words. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel reminded us, words create worlds. But today we also know that the opposite is true. Words can destroy worlds. A cruel text message, a careless comment, a rumor repeated. Those too have power. Not long ago, I heard about a teenager who had been hurt by something said about them online. In just a few words, that teen expressed what so many in our time have come to know. Words just don't stay on screens. They live inside you. Our tradition understood this a long time ago. The Torah warns, Lo terech rachil be'amecha. You shouldn't go about as a talebearer among your people. The rabbis compared gossip to murder because it kills trust. It destroys reputations. It wrecks relationships. But then again, we also know that the opposite is true. A kind word spoken at just the right time, not only is that life-affirming, it can be life-giving. A single word of encouragement may change someone's day, may change their year, may change their life. So let's ask, do we still treat our words as sacred? You know, we Jews are not the only people who speak of holy cities. For as long as we can remember, we've called Jerusalem Ir HaKodesh, the holy city. And even now we call Israel Eretz HaKodesh, the Holy Land. But holiness is not only about Israel. Wherever Jews have gathered, we've tried to create sacred spaces, just like this one. We've built study halls. We've provided kitchens. We have sanctuaries. We have cemeteries, places that remind us of the holiest parts of our lives, places that remind us of God's eternal presence. Yet in our own time, places we once assumed to be safe, like schools or campuses, even houses of worship, they've been violated. It's no wonder my friend asks, Rabbi, where is holiness these days? But haven't we also seen how quickly holiness can be reclaimed? After the shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, thousands of people, Jews, Christians, Muslims, people of all faiths and people of none, came here to pray, to hope, and to heal together. Synagogues across America were surrounded, but surrounded in sacred solidarity. Sidewalks and parking lots, here and far away, were transformed into sacred spaces simply by those who showed up, who answered a holy call. That is the power of place. We don't only find holy places, we can make them. So I ask, do we still treat our spaces as sacred? These questions aren't abstract. They go to the very heart of that cornerstone outside, the one that says, be a Kehillah Kadoshah, be a holy congregation. Judaism calls us not only to ask what is holy, but also to live it. And so tonight I want to do something that I've never done in more than 3 decades as a rabbi. I want to turn the question to you. What is sacred to you? Now, this is not a rhetorical exercise, nor am I going to open up the congregation right now for you to stand up and respond and for me to come around with the microphone. But I'm asking this as a genuine question. For in your worship handout tonight, there on page 9 at the bottom, it's one of 2 QR codes that you have. The other one is so that you can make a tzedakah donation. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. But on page 9, there is a QR code. You can do it now if you want to, but do it after services or do it in the coming days. Take this with you, by the way. It has really good announcements in it. But if you scan that QR code, lots of us know how to do that, it'll take you to a page where you can share your answer. And while you could write a book about this, what is sacred to you, try it in 150 words or less. I wasn't able to do it for tonight, by the way. And if you prefer, you can use note cards. We have them in the foyer. They'll be there today. They'll be there tomorrow during services. You can sign your name on anything, or you can write it anonymously. Some of what you share might find its way into our Yom Kippur prayers next week, or into my teaching next week during the afternoon service of Yom Kippur. Because holiness isn't just what a rabbi preaches from the pulpit. It's what we discover together. It's also what we live and what we do as a community. This is, after all, the season of what we call teshuvah. We usually translate that word teshuvah as repentance. But teshuvah, or tshuva, also means an answer. I ask a she'elah in Hebrew, and you give a tshuva, an answer. I ask a question, and you give an answer. These days of awe are about answering the timeless questions. Questions like, who are we? What matters most? Can I forgive myself or someone else or the world? And then there's also that lingering question, what is sacred to you? It was Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen, you may have read one or another of her books, who once wrote that a deep question is a fine travel companion. A deep question is a fine travel companion. So this year, let's have that question. What is sacred to you? Travel with each of us. And as we enter 5786 together, may we take seriously the charge etched into our cornerstone to be a Kehillah Kedoshah, to be a sacred community, to treat time and relationships, words and places as sacred and holy as they deserve, to recognize holiness in our world as well as in each other, because our world needs it. It needs it not only to survive, not only to make it through times like these we seem to always say, not only to survive, but also to thrive. So I ask you as we begin this new year, again, what is sacred to you? Let's take that question as our travel companion. I look forward to your responses. And may we merit to live up to the vision of the founders of our temple, the ones who had the faith to etch their highest aspirations into stone. May we strive to bring more holiness into our world and into our souls at a time when it is truly needed, answering that ancient call for us to be a holy people. L'Shana Tova, everyone. May 5786 be a sweet, a good, and a holy new year for us and for all humanity, as together we all say, Amen.